Well, this Friday, the 1st of August, South African goods exported to the United States will be hit with 30% tariffs. How will this affect South Africa's exports, especially in key sectors including agriculture, wine, metal, vehicles and manufactured goods? To make matters worse, US President Donald Trump has threatened an additional 10% tariff on BRICS-aligned nations. As South Africa is a BRICS member, this could simply add more salt to the wounds. Well, joining me now to discuss the impact of these tariffs is Annelien van der Poel, Chief Operations Officer at Debt Rescue. Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
How do you think these increased tariffs will hit ordinary South Africans?
Well, unfortunately, if we do not see a deal of some sorts coming to the fore, we are very likely looking at a massive impact on specifically our manufacturing and our production and exports. So what this would mean is businesses that are exporting and relying on exports to the US are going to be hit by these tariffs, and it's going to make our products a lot more expensive, which means that obviously you're just going to have the snowball effect where potentially goods are no longer going to be bought from South Africa. And ultimately, and the biggest concern is that, this could lead to job losses and business closures in South Africa.
What challenges should over-indebted consumers prepare for due to these tariffs?
I think one of the biggest things that South Africans must prepare for right now, and whether your industry is directly affected by it or perhaps indirectly, is to really start watching, more than ever. I mean, all consumers should be doing this, but watch where every cent goes. Make sure that you are not living to the maximum of your means. Cut back on unnecessary expenses, and while this stables out, and let's see where this ends up going. And if you are over indebted already, is to obviously, we do have debt counselling. It's part of the National Credit Act, and it's there specifically to assist consumers who are already over indebted. But more than anything, we really need to know what's going on our personal finances and monitor it very, very closely.
There will no doubt be job cuts. Are there any debt relief options for those impacted by job losses?
Well, it's going to absolutely depend on how it affects each family individually. If it's an individual, something like there might be some form of insurance they have on their credit agreements that might cover retrenchment. So definitely something to look into if that does happen. So a variety of things that a consumer will need to do. Review, obviously, you need a form of income, so that is an absolute assistance if you have a multiple income household. So definitely going to have to be a case of consumers being very aware of what they have, what means they have available to them to assist them with that specific circumstance.
Now, what if South Africa responds with commensurate tariffs on the US? What does that mean for South African consumers?
Well, for South African consumers, it's going to mean that, if we reciprocate and we then hike the tariffs, we are in essence going to be paying more for goods that come into our country ultimately from the US, and we are a big exporter or importer from the US. So for us, it means that as average consumers, goods are going to become more expensive. But not just that, we've also seen, unfortunately, historically, when other countries have tried to reciprocate, the US just increased the tariffs even higher to the goods that were exported from their countries into the US. So it's a very, very difficult situation that all countries are in currently for those that haven't managed to finalize some form of deal with the US.
How might the tariffs affect interest rates and loan repayments in South Africa?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we're going to be watching is obviously we've got the CPI figures coming out this week, which obviously is always going to be a factor when it comes to interest rates announcements. And then we have the interest rates announcements shortly after. And we know that the Reserve Bank is very cautious at the best of times. And adding this uncertainty into the mix, it could possibly lead to a case where obviously we're hoping to see that inflation comes down, bringing in interest rates down. But this variable could perhaps just put a bit of a hold on that until we see what the future holds with regards to the tariff hikes, and which means we might not see that relief.
Thank you so much. That was Annelien van der Poel, Chief Operating Officer at Debt Rescue.